to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Welcome in. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance. Thank you.
This week, I have been thinking a lot about power and how power works. Yesterday, many of us watched the coronation of a new king of the United Kingdom with all of its pomp and ritual. And while that king does not have tremendous amounts of power at this point in history, it was a whole ceremony devoted to the idea that God picks favorites based on whose family you were born into. And that is not how we think power should work in our country as a whole, but also in this community. Because here in this community, it has been our budget building season where we talk with the finance committee and the board, and after this service, the congregation, about how we spend our money together, knowing that we all have to approve it. We all have to, at least a majority of us, quorum dependent, vote to use our power, which is our money, in particular ways. Our Puritan ancestors left England in part because of their views of monarchy. And we have this radical democratic process in our church that we have inherited from them. So come, let us gather. Come, let us use our power well in service of our values. Come, let us worship together.
I need a little help here. Get organized. Good morning. I'm Greg Feldmeyer, a member of the Sunday Services Committee. I would like to welcome everyone to the service today, whether in church or by Zoom. We welcome you to this diverse community of seekers from many spiritual backgrounds. We are glad you are here as part of a loving, caring, inclusive community committed to helping one another, both in our congregation and outside in our community and in the wider world. Today we are exploring the limits of tolerance, an interesting thought in our inclusive, loving, and tolerant community. But are there limits? The opening words of Amanda Gorman's poem at President Biden's inauguration struck me as relevant. When the day comes, we ask ourselves, when can we find light? Is this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. Thank you for being here, either for the first time or over many years and for some decades. A warm welcome to you all.
And as we begin, a few announcements for our community. As I mentioned earlier, our budget briefing, our chance to look at our proposed budget for the coming year and ask questions of me and Alan Hunt, our church treasurer, is happening 10 minutes after this service. So the service both in this room and on Zoom. So if you want to go through it line by line, we want to do this today instead of at the congregational meeting in a few weeks. Please come. It will also be recorded. This Thursday evening, there is a Zoom worship hosted by DRUM, which is the Diverse and Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, which is a group by and for Unitarian Universalists of color. And all people are invited to attend this service. It's Thursday at 8 p.m. on Zoom. It will be good. Advanced registration is required, so check our newsletter and weekly email to figure out how to sign up to receive the Zoom link. And next Sunday is our spring music service, and our musicians are putting together something wonderful. Please come. And finally, we have a special announcement this morning from our friends from across town at the Unitarian Universalist Community Church. Yep.
I am here. We're here from the Unitarian Universalist Church in Portage.
We are here to tell you about a fabulous event that we are hosting on Saturday, May 20th.
From 6 to 8, we will be hosting a family-friendly drag show with Miss Moscato, Greta Vendetta, Savannah Hawthorne, and Petty Divine. We are also calling it Dragging the Church.
As an added bonus, Miss Moscato and the girls will be hosting a Drag 101 workshop before the drag show. This workshop is for anyone who is curious about drag, wants to meet some drag queens up close and personal, or wants to release their inner queen or king. You can come and learn from the professionals. They'll do makeup, they'll do hair, they'll do give you performance tips, there'll be clothes to try on. You should give it a try.
Both the workshop and the drag show will be free, but we will be holding a special collection for Outfront Kalamazoo's Legacy House, which provides shelter for LGBTQ young people who are experiencing housing insecurity. And of course, we recommend that everyone comes to tip the queens.
We wanted to share this event with you because we know that People's People are very supportive of the LGBTQ plus community, and we have heard that you enjoy a good drag show. We hope you will come and enjoy the fun and help us spread the word about this event. We're going to leave a whole bunch of flyers for you out there. We hope that you invite people who would enjoy this sort of event and come and have fun.
Come for the workshop.
Stay for the show.
And leave feeling fabulous.
Thank you very much.
I would like to invite you all to rise in body or spirit to sing our opening song together. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. One final time. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in one strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near.
Sophie, would you please come forward to light the chalice that represents the light that we can shine into the world around us, working with others to make the world a better place. Good job. If you're lighting a chalice at home, you are encouraged to type in the chat box, a chalice is lit in your neighborhood, the city, or the street. The chalice is a symbol, a poem by Deborah Falk. A chalice is lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all her people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is a symbol of the spark of all this within each one of us.
In addition to our chalice lit here at People's Church, we have a chalice lit on Mason Lake near Munson Lake, a chalice lit in Richland Township, a chalice at Heritage Community, a chalice in the Millwood neighborhood, a chalice in Pawpaw, and a chalice at Friendship Village. And if you are one of the people who joins us via Zoom and don't have a chalice at home, let me know. Our membership committee has been hard at work scouring the local thrift shops for things that can be chalices. Maybe they were originally intended to be ice cream bowls, but that's okay. It's all for the good. And so if you don't have one, I have quite a collection in my office if you need a chalice for home. And now I would like to invite our children up for a story.
Mommy.
Hi, sweetheart. Nope.
No, you don't. Fire safety comes first, always.
Okay, let's sit down. Let's make room for friends.
What's
Oh,
that?
you look lovely today, Mara. What a beautiful spring dress.
I am Naruto. Okay, so sit down. I am Naruto.
Okay.
Naruto.
Oh, let's sit down, okay? And so I have a story for you today. Oh, Millie, can you sit down? And it is a story that's from El Salvador in Central America. And it is not a true story, but it is a good story. And it is a story about a bunch of tools. And they get mad at each other. I know you know this story because I love it so much. So to tell the story, I need to make sure you know what all of these tools are for. So first, what's this? A hammer. And what do you do with a hammer?
You bang, bang, bang.
You bang nails, you hit things. Yep. Okay.
And bang skulls.
Okay. Next, what is this? A screwdriver. And what's a screwdriver for? You screw in screws. Yep. Okay. Okay. This is sandpaper. What's that for?
It's to make the direction. It's to make the direction.
It's to make wood smoother, right? If something's rough, you can use the sandpaper to make it smooth. Okay.
A measuring tape.
A measuring tape. What's this for?
It's for the measure to know how high it's gonna be.
Yep. It's to measure to know how big something is. Yep. Okay. And then what's this? I know this one's a little tricky.
It kind of looks like a star. It looks like
It's a clamp. Yep. And what do you do with it?
you clamp what? You clamp.
You can hold things together, right? You can make this tight. So like especially if you're like gluing something or otherwise need it to stay close together. Okay. So once upon a time in the carpenter's workshop, after the carpenter had stopped working for the day, the tools had a meeting.
And then they got.
And
mad.
And the hammer was the president of the workshop. But the other tools said, we don't want you to be president anymore. You're always hitting everyone.
Why?
And the hammer said, well, if I can't be the president anymore, then the screwdriver definitely can't be part of this group anymore because the screwdriver thinks everything revolves around them and they are so slow. We can't have them as part of our community.
Why?
And then the screwdriver said, okay, but if you kick me out, you also need to kick out the sandpaper.
Why?
Because the sandpaper is always causing so much friction among us, always making things harder. And the sandpaper said, well, if you kick me out, then you definitely need to kick out the measuring tape. Because the measuring tape has such high standards and is always telling us we're not good enough, we don't measure up. And we can't have that kind of attitude in our community. It just wouldn't be right.
Well, what because if you fall me out,
You think you know what's coming next? Let's listen and see.
If you kick that out, you need to.
Okay. And so the tools stayed up all night arguing about should they all be kicked out? Could they all be one community together, even if some of them have annoying habits? Do you have thoughts, Gigi?
You didn't say that.
Yeah, the screwdriver does want to kick the sandpaper out. Yeah, everybody thinks everybody is too annoying to be part of their community anymore. Yeah, I think they all would be sad if they didn't end up with any family. And so they argued all night. And the next morning, when the carpenter came to work, oh, Violet, do you have thoughts? Without any tools, the carpenter can't work. That's right. But when the carpenter comes, all the tools stop talking, right? They can't let the carpenter know they know how to talk. And so the carpenter works all day and he uses the nails and the hammer and the screwdriver and the sandpaper and the measuring tape. And he makes this beautiful box that has nothing in it yet, but a little box. Nothing yet. You could put, it would have to be a little bigger to fit all the tools. And so that night, do you think the tools start arguing again?
Yes.
They start arguing, but then the clamp says, you know what, everybody? Today, the carpenter needed all of us to be able to make that beautiful box together. So maybe we have habits that are annoying, and maybe we don't always like each other. But together, we can do things that we couldn't do all by ourselves. And so they decide that they're not going to kick anybody out of the workshop. And they're going to figure out how they can live together and support one another and tolerate everybody's annoying habits. So that is our story. I like that story because sometimes we when we're in community with somebody, when someone's part of our family or part of our church, they might do things that we don't like, but we can figure out how to see the gifts in all of it. Okay? So I think you have specialty classes today, many of you. So have so much fun. Do you have a question?
Gigi wants to talk.
Gigi, okay, what do you need to say today, Gigi?
forgot because you were.
I forgot because it took a little while. Well, if you remember, please find me after church and let me know, okay? So it is time to sing. Have so much fun.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Do you know where the bathroom?
Go forth in peace in search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way. And may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go. Go forth in peace in search of wisdom, with love to guide you on your way. And may the joy of life surround you wherever you may go.
People's people are generous people. And one of the ways we live out generosity is about once a month, we send our Sunday offering out to do good and important work in the world. So today, I am inviting you all to give generously to El Concilio's Capital Campaign Fund. And Adrian Vasquez, the executive director, is here to tell us all about that good and important work. Please be generous.
I think I need this too. Buenos dias, friends. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little more about Concilio. And I'm going to kind of talk about the past few years so you understand why we're doing this capital campaign. Obviously, we're very difficult few years due to the pandemic. But thanks to my staff, board members, volunteers, and many people that donated to us, we were able to accomplish so much, help so many families, individuals that lost jobs, that are about to lose their homes, they got sick, members in the family that passed away. So thanks to many, again, support of the community, we were able to be ready with my staff, my team, to answer the calls and needs from getting community members, partners to get testing available for our community and have bilingual staff. At the same time, to create a special fund for families that were left out of government assistance programs. So El Concilio was involved in many partnerships from local to statewide to ensure that our community was taken in consideration in very difficult times. Since our preschool programs, everything was running at this time. So obviously we had to learn quick how to have our preschool running with, all the restrictions, all those safety measures for the kids and the teachers. But I can tell you that since 2019, when we started preschool, we have graduated of 35 children from 3-year-olds. There were 3-year-olds and they went to a 4-year program. We also have served over 100 youth with our youth programming, and those also we run a learning hub in collaboration with Kalamazoo Public Schools to serve kids that were having issues with the virtual learning. So we open our site to have them come in with us and be helped. At the same time, our supports, our services impacted over 9,000 individuals, again, from assistant with food, assistant with cash, assistant with clothing, and other resources that we were able to bring from other organizations. Again, Concilio continue to thrive, continue to advocate, bring more support to our community because partners like People's Church, foundations, individuals that donate to us. And after, again, a long fewer years doing all this work, and then we also did other planning, thinking, planning, and running focus groups to see if El Concilio could do a capital campaign, because obviously capital campaigns are not easy. You have to raise funds, and but based on the things that we were doing, based on some of the restrictions that we had because we don't have our own space, and also because a lot of our programs are need to expand from our preschool to our youth programming. We launched our Fulfilling the Promise for All capital campaign. That is a project to raise $5.5 million to acquire our own building, expand our classrooms from 1 preschool classrooms to 5, and obviously have right now 3 youth programming to 6 classrooms for our youth programming, and all focusing on STEM to ensure that our kids don't get left behind, just like many others who don't have the resources. But ours are the barriers are language and also the family separation. So I'm hoping that everybody, just like many others, have answered the call, opened the doors. We have over 100 individuals, organizations, and foundations who have donated to this project. And when I said, I invite you to, I said we because I'm not alone in this project. There's many people that believe in this, and that we hope that this is a project that will stay with the community, and it's not only going to benefit the Latinx community, but it benefit all those who are in need. And we have seen that. We've seen that El Concilio is an organization that opens doors not just for my community, but other communities that feel that there's no other organizations for them. But again, we're happy that we see people from all over the country that come to us because we open doors for them too. So I thank you so much for the time, and I look forward to working with you. And from $1 to 25 cents to whatever you can donate to this project is welcome. So thank you so much.
Color and fragrance, magical rhythm, sweet changing music will change us with them. Life within life, inner light gently glowing. Surely you seem to be God's vision growing. Oh, starry heavens, worlds of all splendor, suns without number, new life and gender, wheel in a wheel with a light brightly glowing, moving in harmony, God's vision growing. And full of pebbles, high mountain passes, depths of the ocean, dew on the grasses, great things and small, with a light gently glowing, word of the wordless song, God's vision growing.
And all together, from the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions, share in the works of love, which none of us can accomplish alone.
People's Church is a community that supports one another. One of the ways that we do that is by taking time during our gathering to invite those who wish to share the joys and sorrows and milestones of their lives. So if you have something you wish to share, if you're joining us on Zoom, please type it into the chat box. If you're here in person, please come forward, speak briefly, share your name, and place a stone in our bowl of water. Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed. May the weary find rest. May the sick be tended. May the dying and those who love them find peace, and may the joyous be shielded. And may all of us know that we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. For our spoken meditation today, I'm going to lead you through a meditative practice that I find really helpful. So first, I invite you to just make yourself 10% more comfortable. Maybe that's letting the tongue come off the roof of your mouth, or unclenching your jaw, or stretching your shoulders, or relaxing your hips, whatever it is in your body. 10% more comfortable, maybe more if you can achieve that. And settle into a smooth breath pattern that feels comfortable in your body. And then I invite you to take your hand and just hold your own head and allow your neck to relax. Maybe your upper back if some of the weight is taken off your head. And just hold your own self tenderly and gently. And continue to breathe slowly. Continue to notice where there's tension in your body and relax it as you're able. Mm-hmm. I invite you to slowly return to this time and place, but hopefully have this as another tool in your toolbox for those moments. I find when things feel particularly overwhelming, even like 30 seconds of holding my own head, it makes it a little bit more manageable. So then we will sing.
Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give.
The first reading is from Open Society and Its Enemies by Karl Popper. Unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, if we are not prepared to defend a tolerant society against the onslaught of the intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed, and tolerance with them. In this formulation, I do not imply, for instance, that we should always suppress the utterance of intolerant philosophies. As long as we can counter them by rational argument and keep them in check by public opinion, suppression would certainly be most unwise. But we should claim the right to suppress them if necessary, even by force, for it may easily turn out that they are not prepared to meet us on the level of rational argument, but begin by denouncing all argument. They may forbid their followers to listen to rational argument because it is deceptive, and teach them to answer arguments by the use of their fists or pistols. We should therefore claim in the name of tolerance the right not to tolerate the intolerant. We should claim that any movement preaching intolerance places itself outside the law, and we should consider incitement to intolerance and persecution as criminal in the same way as we would consider incitement to murder, to kidnapping, or to the revival of the slave trade as criminal. The second reading is a poem by Denise Levertov, Goodbye to Tolerance. Genial poets, pink-faced, earnest wits, you have given the world some choice morsels, gobbets of language presented as one presents T-bone steak and cherries jubilee. Goodbye, goodbye, I don't care. If I ever taste your fine food again, neutral followers, seers of every side, tolerance that crimes are committed in your name. And you, good women, bakers of nicest bread, blood donors, your crumbs choke me. I would not want a drop of your blood in me. It is pumped by weak hearts, perfect pulses that never falter, irresponsive to nightmare reality. It is my brothers, my sisters, whose blood spurts out and stops forever because you chose to believe it is not your business. Goodbye, goodbye to your poems. Shut their little mouths. Your loaves of bread go moldy. A gulf has split the ground between us. And you won't wave. You're not looking. We shan't meet again unless you leap it, leaving behind you the cherished worms of your dispassion, your pallid ironies, your jovial, murderous, wry-humored, balanced judgment. Leap over unbalanced? Then how can our frantic fears, our frantic tears would flow and mingle for joy?
And our final reading today is a short reflection by Victoria Stafford, who's a Unitarian Universalist minister. She writes, "People ask me sometimes, is this a gay church? It is a privilege to answer. Ours is absolutely, gladly, hopefully, and humbly, gaily a gay church, a gay tradition where everyone, including heterosexual members and friends, is welcome, where everyone is needed, where everyone's experience is cherished as a sacred text, because no one's experience of living or loving can be comprehensive, because each of us holds clues to the other's need about how to live with dignity and joy as a human person. And none of us knows enough about that yet to be considered whole. It is absolutely a gay church, even as ours is a gay world if you would look around. Gay church, straight church, people's church, a human congregation made holy by the holy hopes and fears and dreams of all who wish to come. Come in, we say. Come out, come in. We're all in this together. She continues, I will not speak of tolerance with its courteous clenched teeth and bitter resignation. I will not speak about acceptance of other people and some other kind of lifestyle. I can only look in laughing wonder at human life in all its incarnations. I can taste only in passing the breath of the spirit of life on my mouth and understand our common longing to breathe in deep, deep gulps of it. I cannot think of being anybody else's ally even, because even that implies some degree of separation, some degree of safety for some of us, not all. We are allied with no one and with nothing but love, the larger love transcending all our understanding, within which the different, differing, gorgeously various, variant, beautifully deviant aspects of ourselves are bound in elegant unity. I know that on some sad and disappointing days, these words describe the church that has yet to be and not the church that is. I know. But I know too that to answer is an act of creation. To answer this question and some others is a privilege, a prophetic imperative, a joy, a duty, and a holy sacrament.
I invite you to join me in song from your seats. Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
There are so many things that we can agree to disagree on. Who wore the best look at the Met Gala last Monday? Is Jordan or LeBron the greatest basketball player of all time? Or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Seth Curry or whoever it is for you? Upper Peninsula or Lower Peninsula? Verner's or Faygo? Does cilantro taste delicious or like soap? What is the great American novel? What album should have won Album of the Year at the Grammys? What is the best way to spend a Sunday afternoon? I could keep going, you get the idea. And here at People's Church, there is a whole other list of things that we agree to disagree on. Things that have caused fights and even war in other times and places. the existence of God, the nature of God, the number of gods, what happens when we die, the strategies to pursue as a congregation to live into our vision of beloved community, the words we use for what is most meaningful, the hymns we like best. Recently, if beach balls belong in worship. I could keep going. You get the idea. There are so many times when the lessons of the tools in the toolbox are what we need. Learning that each of us has talents to contribute, and that even our annoying habits can be a source of strength collectively. And there are the other things, the things we're really going to focus on today, the things that we cannot agree to disagree on, the things that hurt people and the world and cannot be tolerated as differences of opinion. Namely, the humanity, equality, rights, and bodily autonomy of all people, including but not limited to Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, trans people, queer people, women, immigrant people, poor people, Jewish people, Muslim people, and pregnant people. I could keep going on some of this too, and you likely have other items that you would add to this list. Tolerance can only extend so far. There are limits, and that is what we are exploring today. So last month, I asked you all to submit questions to me to answer in the sermon, and one of you wrote a note that became the seed of our service today. It read, "This isn't exactly a note, or this isn't exactly a question, but something that I've grappled with. I always thought of myself as a tolerant, open-minded person, but as so much extreme thought and actions have occurred, infringing on what I consider basic rights, I will not be tolerant of those. So I've come to understand my tolerance and open-mindedness definitely has limits. There are things to be tolerant of, and there are limits." So this people's person who revealed themselves to me today, so are no longer anonymous, they point to a philosophical idea called the paradox of tolerance. If a society is tolerant of everything, even lies, even intolerance, even intolerant actions, those intolerant ideas and actions have such power and take over, making the whole society intolerant. This is a paradox that people have wrestled with a long time. Versions of it date to Plato in the 4th century before the Common Era. To remain tolerant, a society must be intolerant of intolerance. There's a lot of tongue twisters today. So, and this area of political philosophy gained renewed attention after the Second World War, as political philosophers tried to make sense of how Nazism gained power in a democratic Germany, and how to prevent liberal democracies from turning into fascist states in the future. The prose read by Greg earlier was from a book by Karl Popper, published in 1945, in the thick of this debate. He was a political philosopher born in Austria, and his parents had converted from Judaism to Lutheranism before he was born. And Popper left Austria amid the rise of Nazism. So this was a philosophical problem for him, but also deeply personal. He writes that the government in a liberal democracy should claim in the name of tolerance the right not to tolerate the intolerant. We should claim that any movement preaching intolerance places itself outside the law, and we should consider incitement to intolerance and persecution as criminal. In the same way, we should consider incitement to murder or to kidnapping or to the revival of the slave trade as criminal. In liberal democracies, governments wrestle with what to do about intolerance. Is some speech illegal? And in some parts of Europe, things like Holocaust denial are illegal and you can be imprisoned for them. And in our American democratic tradition, we have generally not criminalized incitement to intolerance, trusting social pressure and democratic institutions to maintain some basic level of tolerance. We are seeing those be tested now. Another attempt to make sense of the paradox of tolerance comes from Yonatan Zunger, who's an Israeli physicist and software engineer who has worked a lot in social media platforms, a high-ranking social media engineer at Google, Twitter, and Microsoft, trying to figure out how these corporations manage speech. In 2017, he argued that tolerance for its own sake is not a virtue. Tolerance should only extend to those who offer tolerance in return. He writes, "Tolerance is not a moral absolute. It is a peace treaty. Tolerance is a social norm because it allows different people to live side by side without being at each other's throats. It means that we accept that people may be different from us in their customs, in their behavior, in their dress, in their sex lives, and that if it doesn't directly affect us, it is none of our business." But the model of a peace treaty, he continues, differs from the model of a moral precept in one simple way. The protection of a peace treaty only extends to those willing to abide by its terms. It is an agreement to live in peace, not an agreement to be peaceful no matter the conduct of others. Tolerance should extend only to those who would uphold it in turn, he argues. To withdraw those protections from those who would destroy it does not violate its moral principles. It is fundamental to them, because without this enforcement, the treaty would collapse. It is appropriate, even ethical, to answer force with proportional force, even or when that force is required to restore a just peace. So the argument is you only deserve tolerance if you yourself are tolerant. If you cannot uphold your part of the collective peace treaty that is living in a tolerant society, you do not receive tolerance, which raises so many questions about who gets to decide where the line between tolerant and intolerant is, or how much intolerant speech is allowable before it should be punished or shunned in some way. And I'm going to end the political philosophy portion of this sermon here, knowing that I probably raised more questions than I answered, but talking about that stuff in the abstract gets really difficult. Intolerance is one of those things that we know it when we see it in the extreme cases, and then there's a lot of nuance in between. So for us as Unitarian Universalists, tolerance isn't just about political philosophy, it is religious. Our Unitarian heritage claims the values of reason, freedom, and tolerance among its core principles. The only Unitarian king in all of history, which if you don't know is King John Sigismund of Transylvania. Fun fact that will never come up outside of this church probably, but you know it now. He issued one of the first edicts of religious tolerance in Europe just over 500 years ago. So tolerance is part of our religious heritage in deep and profound ways. But if it is our highest value, it could leave us tolerating intolerance and hatred. We are at risk of becoming like the people that Denise Levertov condemns in the poem Greg read earlier. People with weak hearts and perfect pulses that never falter, irresponsive to nightmare reality. It is not our work to tolerate everything, to tolerate the nightmare realities that exist in our world. It is ours to name what is right and what is wrong and act. Robert Jones Jr. is a gay Black writer who lives in Brooklyn and has published under the name Son of Baldwin. And he writes, "We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. It's worth repeating. We can disagree and still love each other unless your disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity and right to exist. A difference of opinion ceases to be a charming personality quirk or a good-natured argument when it denies humanity and the right to exist. And Jones makes this personal for him and his identity. And I think our call as Unitarian Universalists is to be intolerant of opinions and actively oppose policy, practices, legislation, and all other efforts that are rooted in oppression and deny the humanity and right to exist of anyone, not just ourselves. If we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, that all people have the right to flourish with dignity and worthiness, if we honor the interdependent web of all existence, we cannot tolerate what is intolerant. In the passage I read earlier, Unitarian Universalist minister Victoria Stafford invited us into something greater than tolerance, something greater than the courteous clenched teeth and bitter resignation that tolerance can mean. She invites us to move beyond even being someone's ally and recognize that if there's not safety for everyone, there's not safety for all of us. We are so bound together in this world. And thinking of ourselves as separate from another, as something only impacting one community or one state or one part of the world, just isn't true. If we have learned anything from the pandemic, it's that we are all breathing the same air. We are all in this together. We are not free until we are all free, and we are not safe until all of us are safe. And because this is a world where so many of us are constantly under threat, where right now a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Birmingham, Alabama, is navigating threats because they hosted a drag show at their building, and so they could not find any musicians to play music today because no one was willing to come into the building. This is real. And we have so much to do to create the world where our values are real. So there are so many ways to change the world. That's one of the, maybe the only good thing about a world with so many problems, is there's so much work that can be done, and we can all find our piece of it. So much of the work involves connecting with others, whether with El Concilio or Isaac or statewide or national efforts at policy change. Find where you can fit, find who you can follow, not just on social media, but with your time and your money and your energy. And I feel like almost all of my sermons in the past few months have ended with so find your people and work together. So I am going to focus today on the tiniest ways we can interrupt intolerance. That's the practical application today. What do we do when someone says something hateful and intolerant in our presence? How do we interrupt or name our own values? And we've all had these moments when a friend or acquaintance or coworker or family member says something ignorant or hateful or both. We've all had the moments when we've been the one who says the ignorant or hateful or both thing too. So we all need to do our own work, that's for sure. I preached a few weeks ago about how to work through apologies and forgiveness. So if that's your journey, find the sermon podcast or the service from a few weeks ago. But when something intolerant is said in our presence, what can we do? Some of you are great at intervening and speaking up and don't need these tips. So this is for the rest of us who sometimes freeze, who sometimes don't know what to do. And I have some advice. First, your response does not need to be an Oscar-worthy monologue. Let's recalibrate our our expectations, right? None of us have script writers working behind the scenes to make sure we say the most eloquent thing that's ever been said. When I'm in this situation, I find that just saying, wow, is pretty effective and helps my brain catch up to what I actually need to say. Or a gentle, I disagree with that, works too. Depending on the context, you can say more, of course. That's a really hurtful word. You said something that sounded pretty racist to me. Is that what you meant to say? Things like that. And if you can't find the words right away, if you are too surprised or hungry or distracted to intervene in that moment, that's okay. There's not a statute of limitations on this. You can go back to it. You don't lose your chance to speak up if you don't do it right in that moment. You know, that happens to me, and you can return. You said something yesterday that I've been thinking about. Can we talk about it? Or the last time we were together, you said something that sounded pretty transphobic to me, and I want to talk about that with you. All of that is for the good. Another key thing to remember when you're doing these sorts of responses is to know that you are not going to change someone's entire worldview with one comment, except in very rare circumstances. But this is not, you're not going to change someone's thinking dramatically with one response. But the goal of interrupting intolerance when we see it, some of it is about honoring your integrity. Some of it is about making it clear to others who might be listening where you stand and where you want our community to be, whatever that community is you're rooted in. And every time we respond to intolerance with care, it is an act of love and faith. It's loving to let someone know the impact they are having on the world. It gives courage to those who witness your conversation. And engaging with someone who is intolerant is a tremendous act of faith. Faith that your relationship will grow stronger through speaking the truth. Faith that the other person is capable of transformation. Faith that all of us will continue to change and learn and grow. Because I know I've had moments when people have let me know with care and thought that I said something that I should not have said, that maybe I didn't even mean to say, but it came out in a terrible way. And I treasure that because it is a moment to learn and grow and to remember that someone else trusted me enough to see that I was capable. So it doesn't have to be a scary conflict. Sometimes it will be, and we negotiate that too. But each of these efforts is planting a seed, right? That might someday blossom in ways that none of us can predict. But it is worth to sow these potential promises of the world we want to live in. So may we be tolerant, even if someone has the wrong opinion about cilantro or even the wrong opinion about God. But may we have clarity of purpose to know intolerance and hatred for what they are. May we oppose intolerance and hatred with integrity, with care, with love, with faith. And may we create a community and a world where all can flourish. May it be so. May we make it so. And amen. Oh.
Well, with that, I invite you to rise and body your spirit to sing our closing song together. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shall reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer the Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
When people become members of People's Church, part of the promise they make is to work together to create truth, righteousness, and love in all the world, which is incredibly ambitious. So let us go out and do that, but also truth, righteousness, and love in the small circles that we inhabit, where we have the power to create tolerance and care and justice. Let us go in peace and go in love.